Hello everybody. What I would like to talk to you about is dialectical behavioural therapy, and starting with the skill of core mindfulness. So dialectical behavioural therapy is basically the word di referring to two and the word lectical referring to intellect. It's two ways of thinking. A lot of people with disorders and personality disorders and mood disorders tend to think in black and white. In other words, they think of things as all good or all bad, with no in between and no middle ground. So dialectical behavioural therapy is to help them come to a middle ground and see that there may be another side to things, and that things aren't all black or all white, but maybe there's grey areas or areas of colour in between. So the first skill that we learn in dialectical behavioural therapy is mindfulness, and this is basically learning what kind of mind state you're in. There are basically three mind states. The first one we know a lot about, and that's emotional mind. We all know when we're in emotional mind because that's when we're anxious, we maybe feel angry or very depressed or sad, and this is emotional mind. Then there is reasonable mind. This is your intellect. This is where it's talking about your rational thinking. It's logical and planning. It's problem solving. It's very mechanical. It's a very cold way to think. There's no emotions involved in this kind of thinking. But then there is the in-between, which is called wise mind. And the wise mind is where you consider your emotions, you don't ignore them, but you also think about what's rational and logical, and you try to incorporate these two to come to a better decision and a wise decision. And there is a little diagram that helps us to understand how these three mind states interact. So as you can see, there are two large circles that intersect in the middle, and it's this middle intersecting section here that is the wise mind. So in order for you to find your wise mind and to come in touch with it, you need to have an overlapping of your emotions as well as an overlapping of your reasonable mind. And where you meet in the middle, you're able to come to your best decisions. So in order to know that you've made a decision in wise mind, you need to consider a few things. Did this decision feel right for you? Check in with your centre, check in with your wise mind and see if it felt right. Because if there's any doubt, then it probably wasn't your wise mind. Look at the reactions to the decision that you've made. Were they beneficial to you or were they harmful to you? If they weren't beneficial, then chances are that this was not wise mind, but one of the other mind states. When we first start learning mindfulness, we start to just recognize where we are. So if you're having a thought or a feeling, just recognize it first. Was this wise mind? Is this reasonable mind? Or was it perhaps rational mind? Just look at it and say, yeah, that was really logical. Obviously reasonable mind, or oh boy, I really exploded there. I was obviously in emotional mind. So starting off with, maybe for the first day or two, or even for the first week, just see where you are. Just recognize it. Name it up. Without analysing it, without judging it, without saying, gosh, I shouldn't have done that, I shouldn't have been in emotional mind. Just look at it and see. And also recognize that emotional mind doesn't always have to be a negative thing. You can be an emotional mind and it can feel like love. It can feel a good feeling. It can feel like satisfaction. That's still emotional mind. It's not all the so-called negative emotions. All of our emotions have value. If you're angry, maybe you need to be angry. If you're sad, you probably need to feel sad. If you never felt sad, you probably wouldn't feel comfortable with yourself. Like, if something sad happens, you need that emotion. Anxiety is a warning sign. It's telling you that something is wrong. You need that as well. So recognize that emotions can be beneficial, that reasonable mind can be also beneficial, but reasonable mind without emotions can be detrimental. Like, say if you noticed something about somebody, like their lipstick smeared, or I don't know, they've got a big pimple on their nose. Now, your reasonable mind say it's okay to point that out because it's true. It really is there. And if you don't consider your emotions, you might say that bluntly and hurt somebody's feelings. But if you consider your emotions, oh gee, if somebody pointed that out to me, I might get my feelings hurt. It might make me feel worse. So when you take up the two, you can make a wise mind decision and say, I don't think I'm going to mention that. I think I'm just going to let that go. Okay. Another way to see if you've been in wise mind is to see if you've just reacted to your first thought. Because reacting to your first thought, sometimes it can be detrimental. Sometimes if something's made you really angry or upset, you need this cooling off period. And once you've had your cooling off period, then you can look at it again, give yourself a while, even sleep on it, then come back to it and say, okay, I was emotional about this, I was angry about this, I was upset about this, but let's look at the other side, let's look at the rational thinking behind it and see if, now that I've cooled off, I still feel the same way. Maybe I can see the other person's point of view. Once you've gotten used to just recognising what main state you're in, the next is what we call the what skills. These are skills we use to expand our knowledge of ourselves and our knowledge of our mind and where we are. The first one is to observe. That is to just notice what's going on without judging it, without analysing it at all. Just see. Like we can do this with our breathing, and it's really a good thing to do is with your breathing. Just have a look. What's happening when you breathe? Don't describe it, just see. I can't really describe what you're going to be looking for because we're not going to describe it. We're just going to say, okay, I'm experiencing breathing. I'm experiencing what it's like to breathe. What happens? When other thoughts enter your head, just let those slip out of your mind, just let them go like a leaf on a stream that you can see just passing along. It comes, it goes, and it disappears, so that you can get back to concentrating and just observing what it feels like to breathe. The second skill is describe. This is where you do describe what's going on. So you can sit there in your breathing and say, okay, I feel air going in and out of my nostrils. My chest rises and falls as I breathe. The air's a little colder as it goes in and slightly warmer as it goes out. You can describe all the ins and outs of what it's like to breathe, or if you want to do something different, what it's like to place your hand on your desk. What does that feel like? Is it smooth or rough? Is it hot or cold? Is it pleasant or unpleasant? So we're describing. And the last one is to participate. This is basically when you're observing and describing and actually having the full experience of breathing. What's it like? What's it do for you? Is it calming? Is it disturbing? When you're in an anxiety attack, it might be a very disturbing thing. You're breathing so quick, so rapid, and you feel like you can't catch a breath. But when you're relaxed, your breathing's different. It's more calm. It's more fluid. So you want to participate and really experience it. I like to do the participate with cups of herbal tea because I can experience the whole thing, the smell and the aroma of it, the taste, what it's like, how it looks, how it feels, the warmth of the cup. I can take in the full experience of it rather than just quickly drinking it and then wondering, did I even taste that at all? I find it really helpful because it helps soothe all of my senses, my breathing, my hearing, my sense of touch, even my sixth sense and my inner sense. Another thing that I like to do to help me focus on these particular what skills, or these aren't the what, yeah, the what skills, that's right, is I have this chunk of rose quartz crystal. It's one of my favourite items. I absolutely love it. It's a lovely pink colour. It has different dimensions and facets to it. It's all in the natural and in the rough, hasn't been polished. So it's straight from nature, straight from God, and it's beautiful to the eye. It has a lovely texture that I can use to ground myself, and I can focus on that texture. I can use describe every little facet and aspect of it. And it also helps me hone into that sixth sense because it has psychic vibrations to it. Like you can feel a hum almost a heartbeat. The rose quartz is considered the heartstone. And if you think about your wise mind as being your gut feeling or your central heart feeling, this is a good way to get in touch with that because it takes you straight to the heart. For you, you might have a different item that brings this for you. But this to me is a great symbol of love and hope and all of the things that are calming in my life. It reminds me that love is the most important thing. It has just beautiful meaning to me. So that is something I use to centre myself with and to come into wise mind, and it's useful for so many other things as well because it's grounding, and it's just I just love it. It's one of my favourite items. So the next set of mindfulness skills are called the how skills. And the first one of these is non-judgmentally. We've touched on that a little bit. But trying to be non-judgmental is not as easy as it sounds because we're always making judgments about everything. I like that person, I don't like that person. We're always evaluating. Sometimes we're over-analysing in our mind. Trying to blank all that out and saying, okay, I'm not going to judge this at all. I'm just going to accept it. It's just as it is. This is the way it is. We're going to radically accept it for what it is without saying it's good or bad, it's terrible or wonderful, it's right or wrong. The next of the how skills is one mindfully. This is just focusing and doing one thing at a time, just like with the quartz crystal that I had. Just focusing on the crystal and doing nothing else, not letting any other thoughts enter my mind. Not thinking about my shopping list or what I'm going to do tomorrow or what people are going to think of this video. I'm just focusing on the crystal. So I'm doing it with just one mind. The last one is effectively. That's focusing on what works. It's playing by the rules, even if I don't like the rules. Maybe just like the road rules. I've got to stop at a red light. It may be annoying because I'm in a hurry, but I'm going to play by the rules because it's effective. It means I won't get a ticket, or not a speeding ticket so much, but a ticket for going through running a red light. Keeping my eye focused on my objectives. My objective is to get safely to my location without getting pulled over by the police, and to get there in a timely way. So if I get pulled over, that's going to delay me further. So it's more effective for me to obey the rules than disobey the rules. And included in that is sometimes letting go of what we call useless righteousness. Useless righteousness is where you may feel that you're really right. Oh, it's so unfair that they have this traffic light sitting here. But arguing the point about that is really not going to benefit you. It's only going to make things worse. So sometimes you've got to let go of what you believe is right if sticking to it is only going to cause you damage and detriment. So learning to let go is very important. So those are very quickly the core mindfulness skills. Hopefully this has been helpful to you. I'll touch on them a little bit more in the next video because this one is probably going a little bit over time at the moment. Thank you for listening, and I hope you all stay safe and well.